You arrive at the end of the day, shoulders heavy, mind restless, and yet no one has spoken to you harshly. The noise is inside you. Your thoughts spin endlessly, reminding you of tasks unfinished, words unspoken, and moments that slip like sand through your fingers. You feel the weight of your own expectations, quietly suffocating, and wonder why, despite effort after effort, peace remains distant. This is the symptom often ignored. Not a lack of will, not laziness, but misalignment. The currents of your life, work, relationships, obligations, flow in one direction while your inner rhythm moves in another. You try to push harder, to control, to bend the river to your will, yet every attempt only strengthens the friction. You drift, exhausted, not from doing too little, but from doing the wrong motion in the wrong way, in a life that pulls you away from yourself. In these moments, you may feel shame. Shame that you cannot simply manage your thoughts, that you fail to rest, that you resist stillness even when it calls. But this shame is a layer of the problem, not the core. Beneath it lies a deeper truth. The imbalance is not moral, it is structural. Your mind is not inherently weak. It has been burdened with tasks, noise, and tension that obscure the natural harmony you were born to inhabit. Notice how your attention flits from one obligation to another, never settling. Observe the subtle tension in your body, the tight jaw, the shallow breathing, the stiffness along your spine. These are the echoes of misalignment, the silent messages that something within you has fallen out of rhythm. And yet, you continue. You rush from one demand to the next, believing that motion itself will soothe the unrest, unaware that the pace you maintain only deepens the separation between your inner and outer worlds. There is also the quiet, gnawing regret, the sense that time slips through your hands while you chase tasks rather than presence, the small, daily compromises that, accumulated, create distance from who you truly are. This regret is not condemnation. It is an invitation. It whispers that alignment is possible, that you can return to your own rhythm if only you pause long enough to perceive it. This is the invitation, quiet and unassuming, to stop, not to strive harder, not to chase productivity or clarity, but to simply observe, to notice where your internal currents clash with the outer world. In the stillness of acknowledgement, without judgment or urgency, the first thread of rebalance appears. Here begins the journey, not a journey of doing, but of seeing, not a journey of adding, but of removing. In the subtle awareness of misalignment, the mind begins to whisper its own path back to equilibrium. The path is not marked by achievement, but by presence, not by control, but by surrender to the natural rhythm that has always been within you, waiting quietly for your attention. Long ago, in a village nestled between misty mountains and a winding river, there lived a young disciple named Liang. Eager and diligent, he sought wisdom from the village master, an old man who spent his days observing the flow of the river, the bending of the trees, and the quiet rhythm of the seasons. Liang approached each lesson with zeal, measuring progress by how much he could accomplish, how quickly he could master a task, and how many others recognized his effort. One day, the master called him to the riverbank. "Liang," he said, "see how the river flows. Sometimes it is gentle, sometimes it rushes, yet it is never anxious, never forceful. It simply moves in harmony with the terrain, with itself." Liang, eager to prove his understanding, rushed to straighten a bend in the river with stones, believing he could make its path more efficient. He labored through the day, exhausted, yet the river continued its flow as if his interference were invisible. Frustrated, Liang returned to the master. "I tried to help the river, master, yet it does not listen." The master smiled gently, the lines on his face deepening with quiet patience. "You have not yet learned," he said. "The river does not need your control. Your own mind is like this river, and yet you force it to bend to meet your expectations. You call yourself disciplined, but in truth, you are misaligned. You struggle because you do not move with your nature. Liang felt a pang of shame. He had believed effort alone would bring mastery, that diligence could overcome discord. Yet here, by the river, he glimpsed the folly of his ways. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the master guided him, not with commands, but by example. Liang observed the river, the trees, the wind, and noticed his own breath, the tension in his shoulders, the restless patterns in his mind. He began to see that true cultivation was not in forcing, but in harmonizing, not in doing more, but in aligning. He noticed how, when he allowed himself to move in rhythm with the river, even simple tasks became effortless. The act of drawing water, carrying firewood, tending the small garden, all became meditative. Each motion, when aligned with breath and attention, carried a subtle calm that had eluded him before. Liang realized that the restlessness he had carried was not born from the work itself, but from the friction he created within himself. One morning, as the sun rose over the mountains, Liang sat by the river in stillness. He realized that his exhaustion, his worry, his sense of inadequacy, all stemmed from resisting the natural flow within himself. When he stopped bending, pushing, and controlling, he felt a subtle ease, a clarity he had not known. The river moved. He moved. In that stillness, he understood. Mastery was not achievement, but harmony. Strength was born not from struggle, but from alignment. The master observed from a distance and nodded. "You have begun to see," he said quietly. "The world will always press against you. Demands will always arise. Yet if your mind moves with its own rhythm, if you honor the balance within, the currents of life will carry you without friction." This is the essence of yin and yang, the dance of opposing forces, perfectly balanced, neither forced nor denied. Liang smiled, not with pride, but with relief. He had glimpsed the first step toward rebalance, awareness of misalignment, surrender to the natural flow, and the quiet cultivation that comes not from addition, but from removal. And in that realization, he understood that life itself is not a race to mastery, but a patient dance with the forces within and around him, each step an echo of balance and a whisper of harmony. The path Liang discovered beside the river is not unique. It is the quiet law that has guided sages for millennia. This law is yin and yang, two forces, seemingly opposed, yet inseparable, defining the rhythm of all life. Yin is stillness, receptivity, darkness, the inward motion of the spirit. Yang is action, clarity, light, the outward movement of energy. Neither is superior, nor is permanent. Each defines and supports the other. Misalignment occurs when one dominates while the other is neglected, when stillness is chased in moments of action, or action is forced upon moments that call for reflection. In the modern mind, yin is often overlooked. The constant stimulation, the endless tasks, the societal demands, all push the yang outward, leaving the yin ignored, starved. You may feel busy, productive, even accomplished, yet inside, there is a subtle hollowness, a tension that cannot be relieved by more action. This is the misalignment Liang experienced. He forced motion where there should have been harmony. He sought clarity through struggle instead of allowing clarity to arise from balance. The cultivation of yin and yang begins with awareness. Observe the rhythms of your body, the cadence of your thoughts, the patterns of your day. Note where your mind pushes relentlessly, where your spirit seeks rest yet is denied. These observations are not instructions, they are mirrors reflecting your current alignment. To cultivate balance, you must honor both forces. Allow yin, stillness, reflection, receptivity to enter your day as deliberately as you allow yang, action, decision, movement. One does not diminish the other, they exist in dialogue. Consider the metaphor of the bow. Taut without release, it is brittle. Relaxed without tension, it is useless. Only when yin and yang are in harmony does the bow carry its full purpose. In the mind, this balance produces clarity, resilience, and effortless motion. Effort remains, but it is no longer frantic or compulsive. It becomes rhythmic, intentional, and nourishing. Yet understanding this principle is only the beginning. Yin and Yang are not abstractions, they are lived experiences. To cultivate them, you do not add more to your life, but refine it. Remove what forces imbalance, excess distraction, compulsive busyness, thought patterns that resist flow. Encourage what restores alignment, measured pauses, breath, quiet observation, mindful action. In this removal, clarity grows. In this refinement, the mind reclaims its natural rhythm. Yin-Yang cultivation is subtle, often imperceptible day by day. Progress is measured not in milestones, but in the ease with which the currents of life move through you. You will notice fewer resistances, deeper focus, and a sense of inner timing that aligns with the outer world. The path is not quick, for it is not a pursuit. It is a return, a refinement of the self already present, yet obscured by habit, expectation, and misalignment. As Liang learned, and as countless sages before him have shown, true balance is not achievement, it is harmony between stillness and action, reflection and motion, acceptance and effort. This is the core principle of yin-yang cultivation. The mind does not conquer, it harmonizes. It does not force, it aligns. It does not add endlessly, it removes and returns to essence. The law Liang discovered beside the river may seem distant from the world you inhabit now, yet the same imbalance persists, only in subtler forms. You rise each morning to an endless stream of obligations, work that demands more than your energy allows, relationships that pull in competing directions, and responsibilities that never pause for reflection. In this modern life, Yang dominates: motion, output, achievement. Yin, the stillness of mind, the receptivity of spirit, is rarely given space to breathe. You know the sensation, the constant hum of notifications, the pull of unfinished tasks, the quiet panic of what you should be doing. Even in moments of supposed rest, your mind is active, restless, evaluating, comparing, planning. Sleep becomes fragmented, meals rushed, attention shallow. You feel busy, capable, perhaps even successful, yet there is a persistent undercurrent of tension, a silent erosion of presence. This is the consequence of misalignment. Your inner rhythm, the natural balance of reflection and action, has been overridden by external demand. You may try to force order through schedules, lists, or sheer willpower, yet the struggle continues. The harder you push, the more friction arises. You experience exhaustion without release, anxiety without clarity, motion without purpose. Consider your identity in this context. You are many things: professional, parent, partner, friend. But these roles are only labels, not the totality of self. When your sense of worth is tethered solely to performance, you drift from alignment. You act out of obligation rather than harmony, measuring your value in results rather than in the quiet of presence. Misalignment grows quietly until tension becomes pain, and pain becomes habitual. Yet the modern adult is not condemned. Recognition is the first step toward rebalance. Observe the patterns without judgment. Notice how work dominates your day, how internal restlessness resists stillness, how your attention fragments into tasks and noise. Each observation is a mirror showing where yin is neglected, where yang overwhelms, and where subtle adjustment can return harmony. Even small moments carry the potential for realignment. A deliberate breath before answering an email, a pause to notice the tension in your shoulders, a walk without a goal. These are not indulgences. They are acknowledgments that the mind, like the river, needs rhythm. They are invitations to allow yin to enter your day, to temper the relentless yang that drives motion without awareness. This is where ancient principle meets contemporary life. The river's flow, the balance of yin and yang, is not lost in modernity. It is simply obscured by habit, expectation, and the insistence that motion alone defines success. By observing these patterns and allowing small pauses, deliberate breath, and conscious alignment, you begin to restore the dialogue between yin and yang. You reclaim rhythm without resistance, presence without struggle, identity without fragmentation. This section of life, the relentless pressure of modernity, serves as both obstacle and teacher. Stress, exhaustion, and fragmentation are not failures of character. They are signals that your inner currents have drifted from harmony. Recognizing them is the first step, and in recognition, there is potential. The path forward is subtle, not heroic. It begins with the small acknowledgement that balance is possible, that stillness is not idleness, and that the mind can return to its natural rhythm even amid the demands of modern life. Even with awareness of imbalance and the wisdom of yin and yang, the path toward rebalance is rarely smooth. You may begin with intention, posing, observing, aligning, and yet find yourself pulled back into old patterns. The mind resists, not from malice, but from habit. The body clings to the tension it has carried for years. The world presses, and the currents of your inner rhythm are easily disturbed. This is the natural law of relapse. To stumble is not to fail, but to reveal where harmony has yet to root deeply. You may feel frustration or shame when you catch yourself returning to frantic motion, when the mind races despite a morning of deliberate breathing, when patience dissolves under pressure. These emotions are familiar, almost inevitable, yet they are also signals, opportunities to recognize where resistance lies. Every relapse exposes friction between expectation and reality, between motion and stillness, between the identity you inhabit and the essence you have neglected. Consider Liang beside the river. Even after his first glimpses of harmony, there were days when he would rise and hurry through tasks, tension coiling in his chest, frustration flickering in his eyes. Yet the river never scolded him. It continued its flow, reminding him that mastery is a return, not a demand. Similarly, your missteps are not condemnations. They are teachers, quietly showing where alignment has weakened, where rhythm must be restored. Resistance often manifests subtly. You may add more tasks, believing action will restore control, or distract yourself with noise to avoid inner tension. You may seek quick solutions, fixes that promise relief, but leave the underlying misalignment untouched. Each of these impulses is a natural manifestation of imbalance, a call to return to the fundamental principle: harmonize, do not force; remove, do not add; observe, do not control. The mind resists because it fears the stillness required to truly confront itself. It fears silence, reflection, and the removal of habitual motion. Yet resistance is not the enemy. It is the signal that alignment is being tested. In those moments, patience becomes your ally, not as a passive waiting, but as an active, calm recognition of the patterns that bind you. Awareness, repeated with gentleness, gradually reshapes the currents of thought, the tension of body, and the depth of spirit. Even more, relapse is a teacher in timing. You may notice that friction arises at predictable moments, when you are tired, when life grows loud, or when old expectations return. Observing these patterns allows you to anticipate and integrate practices that maintain balance, to plant small reminders of yin and yang throughout the day. Each repetition, each gentle return to rhythm strengthens the mind's capacity to navigate life without friction. Relapse is inevitable, but the journey does not fail with each stumble. It deepens. Every return to friction offers the opportunity to observe more keenly, to refine more subtly, and to strengthen alignment in a way that endures. Discipline is not the avoidance of resistance. It is the quiet persistence of returning again and again to balance. This is the practice that transforms motion into rhythm, effort into harmony, and struggle into cultivation. Alignment is not a goal to be achieved, it is a natural state to be returned to. Just as Liang learned beside the river, the currents of life flow most smoothly when inner and outer movements are in harmony. The deeper law of alignment is not about doing more or forcing change. It is about observing, refining, and allowing the natural rhythm within to guide each step. In this law, yin and yang are not abstract forces. They are the architecture of your inner life, shaping thought, emotion, and action in subtle but profound ways. Consider the patterns of your day. Where do you push against the current? Where does your mind cling to control? And where does it surrender too readily? Alignment emerges in the careful attention to these patterns, in the gentle adjustments that bring body, mind, and spirit into consonance. Each small act of observation, pausing before a meeting, noticing tension in your shoulders, breathing fully, serves as a thread, weaving the fabric of balance throughout the day. The principle is simple, yet its practice is deep. It is not in striving to add more discipline, but in removing what obstructs natural flow. Excess tasks, unnecessary worry, fragmented attention, these are the friction points that block alignment. By letting go, by removing rather than adding, the mind reclaims space to move in its own rhythm. Alignment is a process of subtraction, not accumulation. Rhythm is another aspect of this law. The mind, like the river, has natural cycles. Attempting to impose constant motion without recognition of rest, reflection, and integration disrupts this rhythm. Alignment honors these cycles. Action flows when it should. Stillness is embraced when required. In this balance, energy is conserved, clarity arises, and decisions emerge naturally rather than through strain. The aligned mind acts effortlessly, yet not lazily. It responds, adapts, and moves with precision born from harmony. Alignment also integrates the body and spirit. When mind and body move in opposition, tension in posture, shallow breathing, agitation in thought, the dissonance amplifies stress. Cultivation practices that harmonize breath, posture, and attention create a feedback loop. As the body relaxes, the mind quiets. As the mind becomes clear, the body aligns. This is the essence of internal arts, the wisdom of stillness in motion. Alignment is not only mental clarity, it is the unification of being. The law of alignment extends beyond the individual. Relationships, work, and social engagement all ripple with imbalance if your inner currents are disrupted. By cultivating harmony within, you naturally influence your environment. Your presence, calm and grounded, becomes a stabilizing force amid the demands of others. This subtle influence is neither imposed nor controlled. It arises naturally from equilibrium, a testament to the power of aligned being. Yet alignment is tested daily. Modern life continually introduces friction, demands, and distraction. The law does not promise immunity from resistance. It offers a map for returning to rhythm whenever misalignment occurs. Each recognition, each gentle adjustment strengthens the capacity to navigate friction with grace. Alignment becomes a living practice, an ongoing refinement rather than a fixed destination. In this deeper understanding, you see that the currents of your mind are neither enemies nor obstacles. They are teachers, signaling where harmony falters and guiding you back to essence. Alignment is not perfection. It is the ability to return over and over to the natural flow within, to honor both yin and yang, and to cultivate a life where motion and stillness coexist without friction. In this law lies the foundation for every subtle, enduring transformation. Alignment becomes visible not only in thought, but in the very way the body moves and the spirit inhabits its form. The ancient sages taught that mind, body, and soul are inseparable threads of the same cloth. When one thread is taut and misaligned, the entire weave is disturbed. Cultivation is therefore not purely intellectual. It is embodied. It is in posture, breath, movement, and stillness that the inner currents of yin and yang are harmonized, allowing the mind to quiet and the soul to settle. Begin with breath. Breath is the simplest, most immediate reflection of inner alignment. Observe its rhythm without trying to control it. Note where it is shallow, where it hitches, where tension binds it. Slowly allow inhalation and exhalation to lengthen naturally, finding the balance between effort and ease. This is not a technique, it is a dialogue with the body. Yin enters the receptivity of observation, yang in the gentle guidance toward flow. Each breath becomes a microcosm of balance. Movement follows breath. Even ordinary actions, walking, lifting, stretching, can embody cultivation. Move with attention, noticing the interaction between gravity, musculature, and intent. Avoid forcing or rushing. Instead, let the body follow its natural path while the mind observes. Like water flowing around a rock, your movement should adapt rather than collide. Through mindful motion, the body begins to echo the harmony of the mind, reinforcing alignment at every level. Stillness is equally essential. Sit, stand, or lie quietly, allowing thought to settle without striving for clarity. In these moments, the soul reveals itself in subtle sensations, fleeting images, or a profound sense of presence. The tension between wanting and being is acknowledged but not resisted. This is Yin's domain, the inward receptive practice that balances the outward motion of Yang. The integration of stillness and movement strengthens the capacity to remain centered in the midst of life's demands. Daily reflection completes the triad. At moments of pause, morning, evening, or midday, observe patterns of thought, emotion, and physical tension. Ask not for solutions, but for awareness. Where has friction arisen? Where has harmony been restored? The soul's insight often surfaces not as conclusions, but as quiet understanding, a sense of what must be removed, what must be adjusted, and what is already aligned. Integration is iterative. Mind, body, and soul do not synchronize in a single session. Harmony deepens over time through repetition, patience, and gentle correction. Each breath, each movement, each reflection strengthens the threads connecting thought, posture, and spirit. Over days and weeks, a rhythm emerges, a subtle, enduring flow that carries the energy of yin and yang naturally through each moment. The practice is not extraordinary, but it is transformative. By attending to the body, listening to the mind, and honoring the soul, alignment ceases to be a concept and becomes a living experience. Stress softens, clarity increases, and the currents of life move without resistance. Integration is not a performance or a goal. It is the foundation of a life where the inner and outer world dance in unison, where effort and ease coexist, and where the self, in all its dimensions, moves as one. Understand this clearly. Rebalancing yin and yang is not something you achieve once and keep forever. Balance is not a destination. It is a living rhythm. Like breathing, it must be renewed daily, gently, without force. When people search for permanent calm, they misunderstand the nature of the mind. The mind is movement. What matters is not stopping movement, but guiding it. Many people fail here. They learn the wisdom, feel calm for a few days, then return to old habits and wonder why stress returns. This is because yin-yang harmony is sustained through small, consistent rituals, not dramatic life changes. Great rivers are shaped by steady water, not sudden floods. Let us now anchor the method into daily life. First, recognize that modern stress is constant yang stimulation. Notifications, deadlines, bright screens, artificial lighting, and constant decision-making. These all push the mind upward and outward. The nervous system never completes a cycle of return. To counter this, you must intentionally plant yin moments throughout the day, not only at night when exhaustion forces collapse. Begin with the morning transition ritual. When you wake, do not immediately grab your phone. That instant jump from sleep, pure yin, to information, aggressive yang, fractures the nervous system. Instead, sit upright on the bed for 1 minute. Place one hand on the lower abdomen. Take 3 slow breaths. Feel the weight of your body. This seals yin before yang rises. 1 minute is enough. Consistency is everything. Next, apply yin-yang awareness to work periods. When focus is required, yang must lead, but it must be contained. Uncontained yang turns into anxiety and irritability. Work in cycles, not marathons. After 45 to 60 minutes of focus, stand up and shift into yin for 2 to 3 minutes. Look far into the distance. Relax the shoulders, soften the eyes, slow the breath. This prevents yang from overheating into agitation. Many believe rest must be long to be effective. This is false. Brief, frequent. Yin resets are more powerful than one long collapse at night. Think of them as pressure valves for the mind. Now consider speech and silence. Excess talking, especially complaining, explaining, or defending oneself, drains yin rapidly. Words scatter internal energy. Build silence into your day. Even 5 minutes of intentional quiet, no music, no podcast, no scrolling, allows the mind to settle back into its natural rhythm. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is nourishment. Food also plays a role. Stressful minds often crave sharp, spicy, stimulating foods late at night. This feeds yang when yin should dominate. In the evening, choose warmer, softer foods. Eat slowly. Chew fully. Avoid rushing. Eating is not just digestion, it is regulation. How you eat teaches the body whether the world is safe. Next, understand emotional yin and yang. Expression is yang. Containment is yin. Suppressing emotion damages yin. Exploding emotion overheats yang. The middle path is witnessing. When emotion arises, name it internally without acting immediately. This is frustration. This is fear. Naming creates yin space around yang energy, preventing imbalance and regret. Before sleep, perform a closing ritual. Stress lingers when the day is left energetically open. Sit or lie down. Place attention on the feet. Breathe slowly and imagine the weight of the day draining downward. This draws excess yang out of the head and chest, returning it to the ground. Sleep is not merely rest. It is the great yin restoration. Protect it fiercely. No bright screens late. No intense conversations before bed. Darkness, quiet, and routine are medicine. Finally, remember this principle. If stress spikes, yin is insufficient. Not because you are weak, but because life is demanding. The solution is not to push harder, but to soften intelligently. Small rituals practiced daily reshape the mind more deeply than any dramatic technique. This is how balance becomes life, not effort, not struggle, but rhythm. In the end, the Yin Yang Method is not about eliminating stress. That idea itself is an imbalance. Stress is part of life, just as storms are part of nature. The true teaching is learning how to return to the center quickly and gently, again and again, without self-judgment. This is the long view, the wisdom that frees you from chasing permanent calm and instead anchors you in resilience. Many people ask, how long until this works? This question comes from Yang's impatience. Balance does not arrive on a schedule. It emerges subtly, often unnoticed at first. One day, you realize you reacted less sharply. Another day, you notice your breath returning faster after tension. These are signs that yin has strengthened and yang has learned restraint. Returning to the center means recognizing the moment of drift. Drift happens when the mind races ahead, clings to outcomes, or replays the past. These movements are natural. The mistake is believing they are failures. In truth, they are signals, reminders to soften, to slow, to reconnect with the body. Awareness itself is already a step back toward balance. Over time, the practice reshapes your relationship with difficulty. Situations that once overwhelmed you begin to feel workable. You still act, still decide, still engage, but without inner fragmentation. Yang becomes precise instead of frantic. Yin becomes supportive instead of heavy. This is mature balance, not fragile calm. It is important to understand that balance deepens in layers. Early practice stabilizes the nervous system. Later practice refines emotional responses. Deeper still, it alters identity. You no longer see yourself as someone at the mercy of stress, but as someone who can meet pressure with grounded presence. This shift is subtle but profound. There will be periods when balance feels lost. Life changes, loss, ambition, and uncertainty can all disrupt rhythm. Do not abandon the method during these times. This is when it matters most. When overwhelmed, return to the simplest elements: breath, posture, silence. Complexity is yang, simplicity restores yin. Do not turn the method into another demand. Perfection is yang excess. Discipline without compassion hardens the mind. Allow your practice to be human, imperfect, responsive to your season of life. Some days, one breath is enough. Other days, you will naturally do more. Let balance lead, not force. As the months pass, you may notice something unexpected. Your outer life begins to reorganize. You say no more easily. You choose rest without guilt. You act with clarity rather than urgency. This is not withdrawal from life. It is alignment with it. When the inner rhythm stabilizes, the outer world follows. Remember this final teaching. Yin and Yang are not enemies to control, but partners to honor. Too much yin becomes stagnation. Too much yang becomes exhaustion. Wisdom lies in sensing what is needed now. This sensitivity is the true fruit of practice. You will never finish this method because life never stops moving, but you will grow skillful at returning to breath, to body, to center. And in that return, again and again, stress loses its power to rule you. This is not mastery over life. This is harmony within it.